Welcome back. Great customer service doesn't only extend to external customers, but it extends to internal customers as well, namely the employees. The companies that stay operational through the tough times are most likely to be the companies that take good care of their employees. The common reaction with a downturn economy is to try to pare down your costs. But the unwise employer often pares down the very things that motivate employees to be loyal and to take good care of their customers. I know of a company in the US that scouted around for really qualified employees shortly after the economy came tumbling down. That CEO said that those he hired during this time were the cream of the crop. They were out of work because their companies had downsized, and they'd be very loyal for having been hired during these tough times. He knew he was going to have to put a great deal of money into the training, but his rationale was that when things are slow, this is the best time to do these trainings. When business is brisk, there's no time to do a really good job. So his people are well trained and he's doing great business. And it's doubtful that even when the economy does come back again, that these people will be looking elsewhere for a better job. There's a luggage company in the US that stands behind their products 100%. If a piece of their luggage ever gets damaged beyond repair, they replace it free of charge. A man had an attaché case and he put it on the kitchen counter too near to a pot that was cooking on the stove. And the attaché case caught fire and was badly damaged. He called the company and told them what had happened. He said, "Look, I know this is my fault. I did a stupid thing and I put the case too close to the pan that was on the stove." And they said, "We'll send you out a new one in tomorrow's mail." He said, "Oh no, I'm not looking for a new one. This was my fault. I just want to know how much it'll cost to repair it." They said, "Your attaché case is fully warranted for any kind of damage and we'll send you out a new one in tomorrow's mail," which they did. This is a customer who will never buy luggage from another company. Instead of telling 1 to 2 people about how satisfied he was, he told everybody he could think of about the company. And this man single-handedly caused that company's new sales to skyrocket. He told friends, neighbours, relatives about this company. And one of those people told a friend of mine who bought all her luggage from them too. And as a result, I bought all my luggage from them as well. And that's the correlation between great customer service and the economy. So an attaché case that cost that company between $300 and $500 probably netted them over $500,000 in new sales. I've never seen so many businesses with so few people at the helm who understood the meaning of business. I find it incredible that in this downturn economy, businesses are not rushing to do business with you. Instead, they're turning it away in droves. For the past couple of months, I've been looking to rent office space for classes on a weekly basis. I need a year's lease and nobody seems to want to give it to me. The most anyone's offered has been for 2 months, and for the stupidest of reasons that are underscored by their inability to understand economics and how their business can survive this downturn economy. Let me give you some examples of what I'm talking about. I went to one place and asked for a year's lease, and she said it couldn't be done because once a month they hold a board meeting in that room. And by the way, there's only one room that will accommodate a large enough space for classes. And she said that first they have dinner and then they have their board meeting. So I asked her if they couldn't have their board meeting on another night. She said, "No, that's the night we've been having the meeting for many years." So I asked her how many people come to these board meetings, and she said there's 12. So I thought to myself, this makes absolutely no sense. This room is supposed to generate an income, and yet business is being turned away because these 12 people would be inconvenienced by having their meeting on another night. Now, if I owned that building and these were my board members, you can be sure that if they wanted to have their meeting that night and they wanted to have dinner, I'd host the meeting in my place, order in pizza, and have the meeting at my house for just those 12 people. Another building had a perfectly lovely room, and they'd only give me 2 months because just in case they needed it for other events that might want to come in during the year. There's an old saying, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, and they turned down a lease that was guaranteed income for them just in case, in the downturn economy, someone else wanted to use that room for a different event. I had a letter from last week's show from Chris M. He writes, "The recession appears to be over and all the media is saying the worst is behind us." So my question is this: you seem to be suggesting some very radical changes, and maybe they aren't really necessary. Well, thank you, Chris, for your letter. It's like having insurance. It's best to be prepared for the worst and then hope for the best. And if we can start to train ourselves to do without our cell phones, our fancy electronics, unnecessarily travel, meals out, then we won't be too shocked if one day we don't have water, food supplies and our electricity for a week or more. The heart of an economy is based on the numbers of employed people. A country cannot survive without people buying goods. If you're out of work, you can't afford to buy anything. And if you can't afford to buy anything, the economy crashes. So it makes sense to look at why people need to hone up on their customer service skills as a way of generating new business and retaining existing business. Everything that we do or fail to do has a direct correlation to our income and by extension to the economy of our country and the economy of the world. So let me sum up today. If you're the boss, examine the things you can do to generate business. Don't let convenience or habit stand in the way of taking advantage of a good business opportunity. If your business involves performing a service, make sure you give 100% of yourself to your customers. Be on time for your appointments, return phone calls promptly, and make sure you follow through with all your commitments. At the end of the service you're providing, ask your customer if they're satisfied with the level of service they've received. And don't be offended if you have to hear criticism. Take it to heart and try to do better for the next customer. Be courteous, be cheerful, be helpful, and be knowledgeable. And if you don't know the answer or cannot perform the service, admit it. And don't be afraid to refer that person to someone else who may be able to help, because that customer will probably come back to you in the future just because of your honesty. Next week, I'll be talking about the issue of entitlement. We don't only see this in our politicians, our bankers and our financial institutions, but we see it on a much more personal level in our everyday lives. We're going to look at the issue of how people think that the world owes them a living without the expectation of having to work for it. See you next week.